about personal development. And so that it takes courage to understand that there are parts within yourself that need some development, to be able to put the ego aside and see that, perhaps you're not giving your full potential in areas that you could. And that can make you pretty vulnerable in admitting that, you aren't perfect. For a lot of people who are driven by perfection, saying, oh, I've actually got some flaws isn't a very easy thing for them to do.
I think it is very common for most people to put so much pressure on themselves to be maybe not perfect, but at least to try, and to open themselves up to recognizing your own flaws. That's a big step. That's one of the first steps, I think, to self-growth.
It is. I agree.
Self-awareness.
And I think, the reason that I chose you to do this podcast with is because I find you very interesting on two levels. So you have your, you're a singer, songwriter, and from where I sit, to be a performer and to write your own songs and music and perform them in front of a live group of people would take a tremendous amount of courage and vulnerability, because those are your songs that you wrote. And also because I know you personally, and I know that you're someone that really does value self-development.
Definitely.
So I guess let's kind of start talking about the music stuff. So have you always been... Well, when did you start playing music? When did that all happen for you?
I started guitar lessons in primary school because it got me out of class on a Thursday afternoon. And I did it, I guess, non-seriously for a couple of years, and then didn't touch it for a while. And then my cousin, who was a bit of an older brother figure for me, got an electric guitar. And so, of course, I had to get an electric guitar. This was when I was about 15. And then from that point onwards, I was in mid-high school at that point, and that's when I knew, this is what I want to be doing. It was maybe a year later when I started trying to write some things, because it was part of the actual music course I was doing at high school. And it's funny because I have kind of different milestones for when I consider my songwriting to be serious. Like from this point on, I started trying to write seriously.
Okay.
Whereas before that, I was writing because it was part of the music course, or maybe at that point I didn't have enough experience, or I didn't believe in myself enough to try and write seriously at that point.
So I'm hearing that you got to a certain point where you're like, I feel like I'm good enough now to push this off by myself.
Yeah, because originally, this was quite young. I don't remember what age I was, but I remember at some point thinking, how do you even write a song? Like, I think all the songs that exist now, these are just the ones that there are, and you can do someone else's song, but no, you can't write your own song. Like, that's impossible.
Yeah.
Because it was just such a foreign concept to me at that point.
I think as a non-musician, I feel that. I'm like, how could I just bring to life something when it seems like there's so much of it already?
Yeah. And so I think that's the mindset I was in when I first started writing seriously, which I put it at about maybe 2013, 2012. Was when I first started trying to write seriously. Okay. Anything before that was generally just angsty teenage stuff. And I still have a couple of those songs that I might record and release one day just as a bit of a throwback.
Yeah, that'd be great. I do remember that you told me this amazing story about getting up to play at a school assembly.
For the first time.
Yeah. Can you tell us about that?
Yes. So, and this is maybe linked with the idea of playing for strangers or people that haven't seen you do it before. So in high school, I had my very own personal school bully. Lucky me. And I could do no right. Anything I did was an excuse to bully me around, pick on me, whatever. Whatever he had going on in his own life, I don't know, but he chose to take that out on me. And so when I played for the school assembly for the first time, sang the very first time in front of the whole school, he was recording it on his phone so that if it was bad, he could use it against me, of course. Again, I don't know what was going on in his home life, but chose to take that out of me because I was an easy target at that point. I didn't know how to stand up for myself. So afterwards, after doing that, and I was confident enough in my singing ability at that point where I felt, yeah, I can do this. I'll go and sing in front of the school on assembly. And afterwards, my friends were coming up saying, oh, that was really good. Other people were coming up saying that was really good. And this guy who hated my guts, the very fibre of my being, came up and said, yeah, that was pretty good.
Oh, wow.
And so that was a big moment for me because I thought, if I can get a positive reaction out of this guy, then it must be all right.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing, isn't it? Like that's some really good feedback. And how do you find that feedback affects you? Because again, as a performer, even though you might have that image in front, or the performer part in front of you, do you find that feedback, whether it's positive or negative, still has a bit of an impact?
I think it would be impossible to say that feedback from others doesn't have impact. I'm happy to say that the majority of feedback I've gotten over the time I've been a musician has been overwhelmingly positive, and even the more negative feedback hasn't been to the point of, oh, you're shit. It's been less intense than that. Really, as with a lot of people, my biggest critic over my time has been myself. And there's always been that voice in my head that either says, oh, you can do better, which can be good, can be not good. I think it's how you frame it. If you say, it's good, but I know you can do better, I believe in you, or, oh, that was shit, you can do better. Like, it depends on how you frame it, and that voice has been framed both ways over the time. Yeah.
So you definitely have your own critic, regardless of the feedback that you get from other people.
Yes, and maybe even to balance all of the positive feedback, which also has hopefully stopped me from getting a big head. And I've had other friends too that sometimes when my ideals get a little bit too lofty, they'll bring me back down to earth, and I'm very appreciative of them for that.
Oh, that is good to have friends that are keeping it real.
Yeah, because even early on, I saw people who were musicians that they were good, but they knew it. They knew how good they were, or thought they were better than they were. And I always looked at that and said, that's not the kind of musician I want to be. That's not the kind of person I want to be. So to always... And again, these voices in your head, not in a schizophrenia kind of way, but these internal monologue voices, one of those is... its entire job is just to don't be that guy. Don't be like that. Like, be gracious and...
Yeah, okay. That's interesting because that obviously, helps balance out some of those other parts, as you say. Might get a little bit lofty at times, as we all do with things that we're passionate about. So I guess that brings us to, talking directly about self-development, because, having a part of you that says, don't be that person, must be pretty self-aware part of you to make sure that you're not doing that.
Yeah, and in fact, looking back in hindsight, I think maybe I was more self-aware even then than I realised, because it was enough to say to myself, "Don't be that guy."
So, in your own personal development and in your development of your music, do you see sort of any parallels with the growth there over time? So,
In terms of my songwriting,
yeah, so I guess things that maybe you've been looking at from within yourself that you've wanted to grow or be better at, has that made you a better musician? Or are there things within your music or songwriting where you've had to expand your horizons maybe that directly influenced you as a person?
I would actually say I've perhaps contracted my horizons, in the sense that my big idealistic dreams were always, playing stadiums and all that kind of thing. And over time, and especially more recently, my goals have become smaller but more realistic. And my definition of what making it, in quotes, means is, again, smaller but much more realistic. So if I can make a living from original music rather than any other income stream, that's a big tick in the making it column. You don't have to be selling out stadiums. If I can put on a few shows a year and have people actually turn up and care enough to come and support, that's actually worth so much. And so that goal is a smaller goal, but it's a much more realistic goal. Mm-hmm. And in terms of my songwriting, again, more recently in the last couple of years, I've much more fully embraced just myself, in terms of I'm not necessarily trying to sound like anyone else anymore. Mm-hmm. I'm not trying to write like somebody else. Or I think a lot of musicians, you start broad and you try and appeal to everyone, and then over time you pare that down into who you're actually writing for, but also who you are, who you want to represent yourself as. And so in particular, one of my songs, I've got a little science fiction song about aliens, and when I wrote that was kind of the turning point of where I thought, look, it's a weird little song. I don't know if anyone's going to really respond to it, but I'll write it because it's me. And that has been the one that people have really responded to, because it's different, because it's quirky, mm-hmm. and because there's nothing else like it, and it's just me in a song. And so I'm now at that point where I have gone through the trying this phase, trying that phase, and now I've figured out a bit more of who I am, and there's still plenty more life and time and music and songwriting to go. I know I'm not at the end, but I'm at a point now where I'm much more sure of who I am as a songwriter. Mm-hmm. And that is reflected by who I am as a person. And rather than keep them kind of separate to a degree, I've just merged them and gone, I'm just going to write what I want to do and just do what I want to do. And in a way, music streaming has kind of helped, because it's taken away any thought that I'm going to make money off music. I didn't become a musician to make money anyway, but with the state that music is now, it's so commodified but so low paying that I thought, well, screw it. I'm just going to do what I want to do, because I know I'm not going to make much money off it anyway. Yeah. So I might as well just be myself.
Yeah, well, that's right. I mean, the themes of your music are, it's quite different to the mainstream kind of love ballads that you hear on mainstream radio. Is there a reason? Well, yeah, you've explained that you wanted it to be more you, but you do have a bit of a sciencey theme that runs through your music. And so why was that something that you wanted to bring out and share with people?
Well, again, because that's me. That's me as a person. I very much am passionate about the scientific method as the best way we know of to learn about the universe we live in. And science is essentially trying to remove human subjectivity as much as possible and just look at the objective facts, and to get other people as excited about it as I am is something that I'm very passionate about. And that's what science communication is. It's standing in between the scientist and the general public and trying to take some of those very complicated ideas, put them in a simple wrapping, make it fun and accessible, and go, look at this, isn't this cool? Do you want to learn more about it? Well, here's the scientist. Like, that's not my job, but my job is to show you the door. And so that's very much me as a person. And I thought, well, I already know that I want to write music that's a bit different because I'm a bit different. And I've embraced that now. I've accepted that. And so I thought, well, this is a great way to have music that's a little bit different and stands out in its own way, even though it's niche. And I'm a big fan of musical comedy and artists like Tim Minchin who already do that kind of thing. They put sciencey, psychology topics into their music, and I think it works quite well. And so I definitely want to take inspiration from that. I feel like I want my music to achieve something more than just, oh, that's a nice song at the end of the day.
Yeah, and that is very much like an authentic part of you coming through.
Yeah.
You know, the what you're explaining here and what I'm hearing is, you know, you want your music to be very authentic now. You're not at a stage where you're trying to write for other people. You're writing for yourself, and you've kind of hit a bit of a groove in, you know, interpreting science and making it fun for people to listen to.
Yeah, give people different perspectives that they might not have had otherwise. And I don't want to... I definitely want to make people more aware of the ways in which we are fooled and taken advantage of, especially by people that are pretending to be science but aren't.
Okay.
And I never want to attack people. I want to make fun of ideas.
Okay. So what's an example of one of those?
So the example of one of those might be the latest song I put out, which is called The Sound a Duck Makes. So it's already a little bit different in the title, because I wanted to make people curious even before they've heard the song. And the sound a duck makes, of course, is quack. And so the song is about quacks, which is a word for fake doctors and people pretending to be doctors, but they're not. And that's what the entire song is about. And in that, I'm not attacking anyone in particular, but I'm bringing attention to the techniques that these people use to sell you things that don't work. And some of the language they use, and basically some of the red flags to watch out for, so that 10 years down the track, your auntie gets cancer and then all of a sudden all the quacks come out of the woodwork selling them herbs and homeopathy and all these kind of things. Most people don't know the difference between medicine that's actually backed by science that's been proven to work and all this other stuff that pretends to be medicine, that pretends to be science because they use sciencey words. And they have all these wonderful anecdotes which work very well on human emotions, but an anecdote is not actual scientific data. And there's all other kinds of logical fallacies, and they appeal to nature. Oh, it's natural, so it must be better. And in a scientific sense, that means nothing. Everything is natural as far as science is concerned because it's part of the universe.
Yeah, well, that's so interesting to like bring that into a song. You know, that's so unique.
Yeah. Technically not unique. Tim Minchin and some others have done similar things, but that's what I want to do with my music, is that it's a song you can listen to and go, oh, that's a cool song. But also, 10 years down the track, when your auntie gets cancer and all these people come out and start saying these things and trying to appeal to, oh, we can fix it with this homeopathy. When they say these things, hopefully it'll trigger in your brain, oh, remember that song about that and he's talking about quacks. Oh, I wonder if they're a quack. And just to get people thinking a little bit more about things like that. And that's where the sort of promotion of critical thinking skills comes in. And that's where I was talking about wanting it to be a song, but also a song that can achieve something more than just being a song.
So I guess moving to the performing aspect, and we covered that a little bit before, but we're looking at being your true self and being your authentic self, which is something that's really important to you. But also being on stage in front of people and having the performer self, or a bit of a
On-stage persona?
on-stage persona. So how do you sort of balance that with being an authentic person?
The funny thing is, when I'm on stage, I don't think of it as being a different persona, but people have told me that I am different when I'm on stage, maybe more confident and a bit more charismatic. For example, us just talking now, I'm just talking normally, but according to others, I'll get on stage and then all of a sudden I'm a rock star. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm not doing anything different.
So
it's
you
just
don't-
that I'm comfortable in that space.
You don't notice a little shift?
I do now that I've been made aware of it. But until enough people told me that, I thought I was just getting up and being myself. And I think maybe that is part of it, is because for most people who aren't performers, there is a big difference to talking in a conversation and being up on stage in front of an audience. And I think maybe the idea of this on-stage persona is someone that's just comfortable on that stage, in that environment.
Yeah, so it isn't a different self from you. It's still Nate. It's just that there are maybe some aspects of your personality that are amplified, and maybe
I think it's more that,
some of the
yeah.
volume's down on a little bit.
So when I'm on stage, because the way I like to approach performance is 80% preparation, 20% perspiration. So I like to make sure that by the time I get up on stage, I've practiced my craft. I know my parts, and there's also other things going on in my head, like, okay, you've got to mention this in between songs. You've got to have this person get up and play tambourine with you on this song. There's all these other things going on. So to make sure that I can deliver a good show, and I always do want to deliver the best show I can. And so maybe the difference between conversation like this and being on stage is just being in that the show must go on kind of mode, where just the show comes first. And so I think there definitely is a different part of me that is emphasised in that environment. But up until more recently, when people made me aware of that, I thought I was just getting up and being me, which I guess I am. And
Yeah, it's still you.
so I've essentially said both things to that answer.
But that is the truth of it, though. You know, in being authentic, it's okay to say, well, yeah, in these situations, there are parts of me that are more amplified, that bring out these qualities in me. Still me.
Yeah. I guess I'm not getting up there and playing a character. I'm getting up there and being me, and being the parts of me that I need to be in that environment to make sure the show is as good as possible.
Do you ever use that performer part in other areas of your life when you're not on stage? Like
Probably.
if you're, I don't know, nervous about talking to someone, can you sort of switch on your performer part to get your confidence up?
Maybe not consciously, but performing, singing and playing music in front of an audience in a band setting has absolutely helped my own confidence in everyday life, as has self-growth and learning how to try and better myself and stand up for myself and my boundaries, and a lot of those things have helped me in everyday life to be more confident and more assertive, because I've always been a not assertive person. I've always been the diplomatic one that will give in so that everyone's happy.
Yeah, so self-assertiveness and boundaries is a area of personal development that you've had in the last few years? Okay.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm very excited to see what I'll be like in the future once I've had more time to grow as well. As I said, I'm not at the destination. There is no destination.
That's right.
It's a journey.
It is a journey. There's no point where you just kind of, when it comes to people who have a growth mindset, I think, you know, it's like you're on a journey, you're on a train. There's not really a point where you go, well, that's it, I'm done. I'm at the end of the line now, so I'm just going to stop.
And in fact, that is a good point, the growth mindset, as opposed to the I've got things how I like it kind of mindset. That also applies to me wanting to get people excited about science and critical thinking, is that I have that growth mindset. I want to encourage that growth mindset in others, because the alternative is just doing everything the way you've done it because that's how you've done it.
I'm just trying to think. I guess, you know, you were saying that you're very happy with where you are now with your music and the themes that you're working on.
Yeah.
Do you see any, for the future, do you see any maybe little different directions or getting things bigger? I mean, you know, you talked about making it and how that has changed with definition for you. But what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say, what am I trying to say? I can't remember. What are your goals for the future with your music?
Again, my goals have changed from playing stadiums to if I can just have a small but dedicated following. That's making it.
Yeah.
And I'm working on that. I found the most effective way to gain followers, you know, people that like and care about what I'm doing, is just through making friends in person, going out, being amongst the music scene here in Brisbane and making friends in other bands and going to support them and catching up at open mic nights and jam nights, and that way when I do something and I say, hey, it would mean a lot if you could come to this thing and support me, people actually turn up, and it's wonderful.
Yeah.
And it makes me very happy.
That is a good point. And I guess live music, you know, with COVID, there is always the push to get back out there and get back in with people. And I guess in a lot of other industries like mine, I'm completely the opposite. Like, I don't really go out much anymore, and I don't really see people face to face anymore.
Yeah.
But when you said that, I was like, oh, actually that is really true. And not just for music, it's true for everybody.
For anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are a lot of musicians who I won't hear from them for months, and then they'll message me, and the first thing that says in the message is, hey, can you come to my show?
Yeah.
Where in that sense they haven't laid any groundwork before asking for something.
Yeah, there's nothing in the emotional bank account.
That's it. So what I'm doing, and I'm not doing this specifically to get people to come to my show. It happens this way, is that I'm putting myself out there to be part of this community, and I care about these people that I'm friends with, and they care about me. And so when I do have something and I ask them, I'm not asking them out of the blue, hey, come support me. It's, hey, friend, that I've known for years now, and we have all this amount in the emotional bank account.
Yeah. And so do you have any, I guess, of your own thoughts around courage and vulnerability and personal development that, aside from what we've talked about here, that you want to share?
It's a very broad question.
It is. Well, what are your thoughts on courage and vulnerability in regards to self-development?
I think it, as you said earlier, it does take a lot to be able to look at yourself and see, okay, I'm not perfect. I mean, I don't think many people think they're perfect, but everyone is the main character in their own story. And I guess in one way or another, most people see the main character as the hero. And so it's probably just very human to just assume, oh, I'm always the good guy. But to actually take a step back from yourself to try and see yourself from an outside perspective, I think an example would be, how do others see me? I'm someone who, and I'm working on this, I'm someone who tends to be 5 or 10 minutes late. And that's just me as a person. But that's not who I want to be for others. And that's not who I want to be for myself. And so I try to work on that to figure out techniques for myself to try and be on time, or to be... What I do is I plan to be early so that even if I'm not early, I'm still on time.
Yeah.
Because I want to present myself as someone who is reliable and is there on the time that I say. Or if I can't, I'll let them know. Like this morning, I had to say, "Oh, sorry, my meeting ran a bit late. Can I push it back?" But so I think that requires you to look at yourself from an outside perspective and see, is there something I can do differently or quote unquote better that will grow me as a person?
Yes.
And it does take work to not just go, oh, well, I'm doing the best I can, or I do good things, like I try to do good and then just not do anything.
Yeah.
I think it takes work to look at yourself and try and think, how can I be better?
Especially when, you're trying new strategies for things. Like whenever you try to do something new, you're not going to be very good at it.
No.
So people might be seeing you trying to do something new and you're a bit not 100% comfortable with the process. And that's kind of putting yourself out there to be a bit vulnerable as well.
Yeah. Yeah. You do inevitably come up against the potential to have negative consequences from trying new things. But without trying new things, you don't grow.
That's right.
And again, it's the growth mindset. I think trying new things and failing can still teach you a lot. And it can even be, okay, that doesn't work, but now I know.
Yeah.
Now I know that this doesn't work for me, or now I know that how I've approached this situation or this relationship with this friend, I've realised that that's not the kind of person I want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And now I know how to recognise when I'm being like that and to not be like that. And then, boom, you've got personal growth.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think trying new things is all part of growth.
It is, definitely is.